Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
Fantastic, Mr. Ali. How are you, my good friend?
I'm great, man. I'm feeling good. Got an early morning, meditation, some coffee, a little breakfast. Feeling good.
And for those of you that don't check out our video clips very often, do yourself a favor and get over there. Go ahead and turn and give him a full frontal of that shirt, Ali. He has a very YouTube-worthy shirt on today. The first thing when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a nice shirt.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, man, it's good.
Summertime.
When I walk in and see like a shirt like that, I know we're going to have a good episode.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready for this one.
Yeah, it's been good, man. I'm excited to talk about this and to review that last episode about your best life. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So where are you at? How did you apply the practices, and what were your thoughts following that one up?
Yeah, the practice was really good for me. You know, the first part of the practice was asking us, who told you how to live? Who showed you? And I really got to reflect on my childhood of how my parents told me to live. And I taught a lot of it back to my current practices now, like meditation, a newer practice for me that I've been developing just over the last few years of my life. But I remember growing up, especially coming from my father, who's a practicing Muslim, would always tell me to live like a Muslim, right? Pray, do good, give to charity, be a good person, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. But the prayer thing was a big thing for me because as a young kid, it's hard to be steadfast in prayer, right? It's boring. You're just reciting stuff. And to me, like speaking Arabic, I didn't always understand everything. So it was interesting, man. I did believe that I should live like a lot of what Islam tells you to do, but also my world experiences have kind of pointed me back a lot to what we're going to cover today. And like, what is my true self really call me to do? How about you? What were your reflections?
It just grounded me again. I think those of you that read my book or you've followed me for any period of time know the importance of my mom in my life. And with all the changes going on in the world and stuff, and I had some conversations with people, and for me, my best life is always remembering the sacrifices she made when I was a kid, and the promise I made to myself was that I would live my best life, which meant new experiences, new challenges, doing things that other people would think are crazy because I knew she didn't get the chance to do it. You know what I mean? So it kind of went full circle and reminded me of why I started a lot of what I currently do, is just to make sure she shares these experiences with me. So I think that was the big takeaway for me, is that living your best life, or at least in my case, my best life is when I bring others with me, and they get to experience things with me.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not physically here with you, but because they're on this journey with you, they're experiencing things that otherwise maybe they wouldn't have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was my takeaway when I sat and thought about that one afterwards, and it came up in a couple different conversations, and it was good. And I think it kind of led to today's episode. Yeah.
Episode number 75. The answers lie within. Man, especially in days like today in our world, 2020. Yeah. Jared, why do you think that we're so programmed to look externally for answers, motivation, inspiration? I mean, we're all wearing masks. Why? Because some external source is telling us.
Yeah.
I mean, our lives are run by things that we pick up in the external world. Why do you think we put so much value?
Well, I think part of it is just like you said in your reflections on last week's episode. Let's take prayer, for example. As a little kid, you were praying all the time, but you had no real reason or understanding of why you were doing it and how it bettered you. You were just told you do this because God made you, so you say these things, God's happy, but you're like, you didn't understand. And I think a lot of times we're programmed to look externally because it's kind of part of the education system. Think about going through school and you write reports on history. Well, how many of the teachers asked you to write a report on how history affected you? It was never about you. It was about the facts that were in a book written by somebody, which then means it's what? Their opinion. You know what I mean? Like we're conditioned to think, okay, I need this information. Let me find it. Let me see who. And a lot of times I think we have the information. Now, don't get me wrong. We're big readers, and I love gathering information, but where I've evolved, and thanks to you for a ton of this, is if I read something now, I like to ask myself, how do I feel about this, and how does it apply to me? Dang. Not just taking it because it's in the book, because we know that's his opinion.
Right.
But we're conditioned to that, right? We're told to go get books, read this, go find this. Now with the internet and stuff, you can find anything. But are we critically evaluating it? Are we applying it to our experiences? Or are we taking their experiences and making them ours?
Wow, that's huge.
You know what I mean?
I've never thought about that really our education system, we're taught, it's never about us. No. It's never about you.
Never. And that was, and I had that talk with my kids last spring as school was wrapping up and coronavirus started going. And, they were going online school and the world changed. And that they were still asked to do work, right? Which is fine. Like school needs some work to grade you. But I was shocked at the amount of work that I would say was busy, right? Do a paper on this, write this, reflect on this. And none of it tied into how is this impacting you right now. And I thought, what a huge missed opportunity to guide young people through an unprecedented time by getting their insights, by allowing them to share their insights with an authority figure. Like, we could revamp how they think about school. But instead, we had them write papers about history that took place 200 years ago, and the facts are somebody's opinion. And they don't apply it to them.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And imagine what a world would look like if we were taught that it can be about us and what we believe and how we feel matters. And even further than that, taught to handle how we feel, right? Emotions that arise.
Like that's even process it.
It blows my mind how that's never taught. Right? Emotional management, right?
Think about it. You read a book that you disagree with, and this is Be Your Best Daily Journal.
Yeah.
My good friend Ali. This is something we'll be working on every morning. Shameless plug there. And I started out. It's a good book. But I read a book, or I see the title of a book, and I'm like, I don't agree with that. What do? Most people will put it down. Well, put it down and go find that book I agree with. Well, how do you develop your understanding if you're right? If you never read the book that disagrees with you, if you never look for the opinion that's not the same as yours, right? So then, because to know yourself and to know your answers, you should probably know those that you don't agree with. Or at least have an understanding of why do you think the way you think, right? And we've talked about this in other episodes. Hatred. A lot of hatred in the world is passed down. Yeah. Grandpa felt this way. Dad felt this way. You feel this way. You have no idea why you feel this way. You were just told to feel this way.
For sure, 100%.
You've never read a book again. You've never done anything. As a matter of fact, let's say the people you hate, no matter why you hate them, your actual experiences with they're probably small, right? A small number of experiences have probably been okay.
Yeah.
But you'll dismiss that because you were told to hate the mass.
Right.
Because you're not looking internally. You're just taking everything external. Right? Encyclopedias back in the day, like all this information, we go to look to see what somebody else tells us is the right answer.
Yeah.
And we never apply the filter of, is it the right answer for me?
Yeah. Now, it's funny. I was thinking about how when I was growing up, my father's parents, my grandparents who live in Lebanon, they're Palestinian refugees. So after World War II, I believe they were like 7 and 9, to where they remember it was a war. They were kicked out of their homes. They had to evacuate to Lebanon. So my dad and kind of my uncles would always say, oh, like the Israelis took our land, and the Israelis are bad, and Palestinian people were the victims and stuff. And I remember kind of always having this perception of Israeli and a little bit Jewish, but more like Israeli/Jewish people hate us, right?
Yeah.
And then when I get to middle school and high school, like I'm meeting like Israel Jewish people, and we talk about this stuff, and I was just like, what? Like what? Doesn't make any sense. No, they didn't hate me. And I was like, wait, I thought you were supposed to hate me. Like what's the deal here? So it's funny how we're taught these truths, right? And we go out in the world and realize a lot of that may not be true.
Yeah. And I think there's one more reason we look externally for answers, motivation, or inspiration, and that's a lack of accountability. Right? And what I mean by that is, if I come to you and I say, man, I have this idea, and you're like, it's the worst idea ever. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do it. Ali says it's the worst idea ever. Well, then any regrets I have later in life, I say, well, I would have, but Ali told me it's the worst idea, so it's kind of your fault. Or on the flip side, I don't want to do something. And you're like, no, dude, you got to do it. You got to do it. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Well, it's your fault if it doesn't work, right? I think a lot of times we don't go internal because we don't want the responsibility of the outcomes. We don't want to burden, well, what if it doesn't work? So we go external. And we rely on other people's informations to make our decisions because we can always blame them down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think about it, I'll tell we have a couple other things we'll talk about, but some of the business decisions I made. If I would have went classic business model and called CSU's business school and talked to their head professor and go, hey, I'm thinking of buying this business. What information should I have? Right? He would probably say like return on investment. You know more of this than I do. What sale per, he'd want to know all these numbers. I didn't have any of them. I would have said, I don't know, I have no idea. And what would have told me? Don't buy it. Mm-hmm. Well, then I would never had the gym. Mm-hmm. I would have never had all the lives I've impacted and that are special to me, because you know how I bought the gym? I pulled out some money, shook hands, and we bought a gym. I had no idea on return of investment. I knew enough that I could make it successful, but I didn't follow everybody else's thought process on why you make a decision. I went, okay, I know I'm bucking the system, but I feel good about this. I feel like I can make this work. And I followed it. And I think and if it would have failed miserably, people would have been like, you should have listened to everybody else. That's why they're smart. Well, you're right, they are. But they didn't know what I knew. They didn't feel what I felt. Mm-hmm. But there's responsibility there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas if I'd been like, I'm not going to take this leap in my life and open this door because all the mainstream, all the information says it's a bad idea. So I'm going to stay here. There's no responsibility there. It's their fault.
Yeah.
When I die and I'm like, damn, what if I'd have bought the gym and I'd have ran the gym and I'd have coached? How would I have felt? Well, it was their fault. I didn't do it because I listened. Mm-hmm. But they don't have no regrets.
Right.
At the end of my life, they don't have regrets that they didn't tell me to pursue it.
And I have had the opportunity and the privilege, and I'm not exactly sure when the transition happened, but I used to be that guy, that man of something didn't go my way, always putting the blame on something else, never taking responsibility. Yeah. Right? I remember I always hated to lose, even as an athlete, as a high school wrestler, I would always have something else to blame for a loss. Right. Or even in college, like I didn't get a certain grade I wanted or anything, always something else to blame. And it wasn't until, honestly, I think the transition happened when I really started to read more, get mentors, listen to people that were ahead. And I realized that you get the life that you deserve, and once I started taking responsibility for everything, it just feels better and better things happen. Even if you have a failure. You're like, I'm going with this decision. Like you said, going with the gym. If it had completely failed, then when you take responsibility, you have that experience. And you're like, you know what? I was wrong. I'm taking responsibility for this decision. Maybe next time I will I will take some more information into my decision, right?
But you have experience.
Right. And I think when you take responsibility, that experience is more valuable because your experiences when you're off putting responsibility has such less value than when you're taking full ownership.
I think you hit on the head. It's your experience. If I'm blaming you, it's really not my experience because you caused this. You led that. And that's where I think, man, during this crazy time, for me, I've evolved in just realizing that the majority of answers that will make my life happy, make my life fulfilling are within me. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean we can't get information from other people and we can't evaluate things, but ultimately, we're going to decide what's best for us based on our lives, not the lives other people said, told us, we read about, you know, and I think that's, to me, is why some people are better at listening to themselves than everybody else is they know what they really want.
Yeah.
Right? I think if you don't know what you want, how do you know what decision you should be making? And that's, to me, that's when a lot of people get caught in like an analysis by paralysis type situation because they don't know what they really want. So they want your opinion and this person's opinion and that person's opinion and this mentorship group and this motivational group, right? They're everywhere externally, but they're nowhere internally because they're bouncing around so much.
And Jared, I think you don't know what you want when you're not taking responsibility because you haven't had real experiences.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Once you're claiming ownership and having these real experiences, then you know what that feels like. Right? I did this. I know I don't want that because I took ownership.
But you tried it.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you tried it and you're going through life putting the blame on everyone else for the outcomes, then you're not really having that experience. So then you're in this constant loophole of never knowing what you want because you're never taking ownership.
Yeah. So how, and both, I think you and I are both very good at looking inward.
Yeah.
And knowing, even if we don't necessarily know the direct path to where we want to end up, we know what we want and who we want to be.
And I think that's because we've both had several years of not taking ownership.
Yeah.
You know, you in your younger years,
sure.
the baseball years, and just putting the blame on everybody else.
So experience.
Yeah.
What else would you say helps you? I mean, you got a lot going on. So what helps you know from within? Like, we read a lot. You've mentioned meditation. Why? Let's just talk about meditation, because I think that, like, in this time right now with all this chaos going on, I think we both agree meditation has been one of the best things we've taken up. And why do you think that is? Why do you think, like, knowing your answers, whether it's a business answer, a relationship answer, whatever, starts with something as simple as meditation?
Meditation is so valuable today because we're constantly bombarded with some sort of stimulus, whether that's computer, TV show, social media. We're always filling our brain with something. I mean, as soon as we wake up, I'm guilty of it too, most mornings. First thing we look at is our phone, right? The alarm. Yeah. Boom, we're already stimulated. And even for me, even the positive things, like I'll go to the bathroom, I grab a book. Yeah. I'm stimulating something, and then usually I'll get into my meditation. But we are so, again, conditioned to never really have stillness. And there's a study we were talking about at University of California. They took a group of a few hundred people and put them in a room for 15 minutes. And they told them that, you know, just be still with your thoughts. The only thing that they could do in the room is press a button to electrocute or shock themselves.
I love it.
But before every single person got put in the room, they said, would you pay a little money to not be shocked or electrocuted? Everyone said, yeah, like, I don't want to be shocked or electrocuted. 67% of all the men that went in there shocked themselves. They could not just sit still for 15 minutes because we're in this world, we're so conditioned. Boom, phones, iPads, computers, laptops, video games, TV shows, everything all the time. to where we're not comfortable sitting alone with our thoughts. However, what a lot of us don't realize, what I didn't realize for so long, I was like, meditation's bullshit. This is the dumbest thing I ever heard of, just sitting still. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Why? Because I didn't know the benefits. Again, I didn't have the experience. It took me several years several years of consciously trying to cultivate that. And then I started to realize that when you can create that stillness of the average person has 60,000 thoughts a day, when you can create that stillness in that space, God, the universe, source energy, whatever you want to call it, that's when you get those lightning bolt ideas of like, oh, whoa, or you can observe your thoughts that are coming up and you see your true essence, right? We are not our minds. Our minds and us are different. Our minds are capable of generating these 60,000 thoughts, right? We can have good thoughts. We can have bad thoughts. We can have evil thoughts. We can have all these different sorts of thoughts. But what we can control is what we focus on.
Yeah.
So this gives us an opportunity for these thoughts to arise, and then we just get to observe them, right? We get to observe them, and we can truly be this higher self of like, oh, look at me, silly Ali, thinking about these things, right? When most of us, we don't even observe our thoughts. We just attach ourselves to them.
Yeah.
And are thinking all this, especially this is how the media is so successful, right? Look at the world today. The media dictates what the majority of the world, how they're thinking, what they're feeling. They're putting this charged media out there, assuming these thoughts are going to arise, cause these emotions. So when we can meditate and be still, we get to observe that and then consciously decide what we want to focus on.
I love that. And you hit on something that I think is absolutely true. And I didn't realize it until I sat with stillness. And earlier during this pandemic stuff, whatever you want to call it, for the first time in my life, I started having panic anxiety attacks. I never had those before. Nothing in my life ever rattled me to that point. And my heart was just beating. I was just sweating. Like I couldn't get my thoughts. I had thought, and it was very unsettling. And I was trying to figure out like, why was this causing this in me? And I think it was just, for me, it was a lack of control. You know, like my businesses were shut down. I was told where I could go. I was told where I couldn't go. My kids are about to leave the house and be their own adults, starting their adult lives now. And I had like anxiety about like, what kind of world are they going to be in? And I started reading a book, Stillness is the Key. First off, I asked for help, which I think is huge, right? Like when you're trying to find the answers within you, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't ask for help.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
Right? But when I get help, I don't just take it carte blanche and say, I got to do this because Ali said it. I listen and I say, okay, how do I feel about it? Do I apply it? Does it match with what I'm thinking? And then I try it. Mm-hmm. So stillness is a key. I got that from my daughter. I was like, hey, she's big into stuff like this. And I was like, hey, I'm struggling with these anxiety attacks. I've never had these before. What do you think? So she brought me that book. So I read it, and I started thinking, okay, my life is kind of like a cup of coffee without a filter, right? If you just put the beans in and pour hot water on it, like it'll make some coffee, but you're gonna have a bunch of beans in the bottom, right? And that's kind of how I felt. Like everything was just getting through. I had no filter. Mm-hmm. No, like thoughts were coming through, information was coming through the news, blah blah. It was all coming through, and it's all ended up in my cup. Mm-hmm. And my cup is causing this chaos. And to me, stillness and meditation is like that filter. Because all that same information is still out there, but when I stop, and so what I've been doing now is the first hour I get up, I don't have any technology. I don't have my book. I get a glass of water and I just go sit in my backyard. Mm-hmm. And I like to pick an object and just stare at it and just focus on it, see how much I can learn about that object and all the thoughts that make me wonder, like, why is this object here? How did it get, like all that stuff. And then I'll close my eyes and just calm my thoughts and like focus on my breathing, and I'll look at it again and see if I see it differently. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's probably goofy to a lot of people, but it calms me and it filters.
Yeah.
Because while I'm doing that, guess what? The media is still telling me to be scared. The world's it's all out there. The same stuff that was causing a physical reaction in me.
Right.
No longer has control.
Right.
because
Jared,
I filtered it, right? I've put it through my lens of, hey, there's a lot of beauty here. Like today, I was telling you this morning, like I went out and sat and I saw a star and it was already sunrise. And I guaranteed 99 times out of 100, I'd have missed that star even being there
100%.
because I'd have been moving.
Yeah.
But because I stopped for a second, like why is that one star still out with the sun? Like why didn't he go away with all the other stars? Like there's a lot I don't know. But I'm just like, wow. You know, and you're absolutely, so to me, looking within and creating stillness and meditating, it's like taking your power back because I'm no longer emotionally responding to all the information you want me to respond to. I'm controlling it.
I love the filter analogy. And the scary thing is what you went through, that kind of crisis and feel high anxiety, hundreds of millions of people are going through that every day that don't have their filters in place. And I just want to say something for our listeners. You don't have to start with traditional style of meditation, sitting cross-legged, or even, Jared's method, focusing on one point. These are stiller, for lack of better words, kind of higher level meditation practices. And trust me, it's hard to do when it's new to you. But there are a lot of other ways to stop your mind from racing all the time. Walks, going on a run, even practicing your sport, whatever it is, MMA training, weightlifting. You can clear your mind. Those are great ways. However, when you really want to get a better filter, right, there's reasons why some of the most spiritual, well-filtered people on the world, people like the Dalai Lama, people like gurus and stuff, do this ancient type of meditation of really practicing stillness, cross-legged, focusing on one focal point, being out in nature. When you get to that level, you're going to have these better filters, because today we have trillions and trillions and trillions of bits of information. As a business owner, I know we're competing for attention, for data. We want your data. What do you look at? Where are you putting your attention? Where are you spending screen time on your phone? So there's these massive, powerful forces competing for your attention. And most of the time they're breaking through filters because most people aren't filtering their thoughts. It's so hard to do.
Yeah.
So when you can start to put these filters in place, like Jared said, you're going to find more clarity in what you truly want instead of what these companies or the media want you to want.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or want you to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's, we've gotten so far away from just having quiet in our world. Everything is noise. And for me, the stillness practice, meditation, allows me to, for that period of time, to have quiet. And what I've found is I get a clarity in thought. If something's been weighing on me, man, the answers appear. And why is that? It's because you're with your process. I'm no longer getting everybody else's information on what they think I should do or what they want me to do about this. I'm actually thinking of, how do I feel? How does this impact us? What is this a good decision or not a good decision? And you're not even consciously thinking of it, right? Because you're focused on your breathing, you're looking at an object, however you practice, you're allowing answers to kind of come to you. And for me, that's your power, right? Is when you don't force something, but you just put yourself in a position where you're filtering information, you've screened out the noise, and then the answers come to you. And I think almost everybody's had that experience where they're like, I don't know why I did it. It just came to me. I was supposed to do it, and I did it.
Right.
And that usually leads to really good things in life. But those moments are so rare, and I believe they're rare because you're kind of put in the funnel where we want you to consume, and you get removed from just finding what feels good to you. And that's helped me a great deal. And it's going to affect my decision making. And now that I know I'm capable of that, more so than I was before, I kind of like, if something comes up in the middle of my day and it's heavy, and I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, like I'll literally write it down. And then I'll kind of make it the focal point of my thought process until I find an answer, or until I realize I don't really care enough to think about it anymore. You know what I mean? Instead of just a thought, having it all race at me, slowing it down and controlling it.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to touch on real quick. I love how you said, like, don't get me wrong, it's always good to seek out information when you're trying to make a decision, or when you're stressed. Loved ones, mentors that you look up to. You always say this, and I really appreciate it, is always look at what the agenda of the person is that you're consulting with, right? Like one great example that you really told me was when I decided to get off of my Adderall prescription. Right. And I was telling you kind of what the doctor said, and you're like, well, yeah, but doesn't he make more money if you continue your prescription, blah, blah. And looking at the motive. So you have to realize that the media has an agenda. Every business out there has an agenda. Some good, some bad, right? But everyone has an agenda. So when you're seeking this outward stuff, then you can go inward with that. Yeah. So aside from meditation, I thought of two other techniques that I want our listeners to consider. And again, go inward to see what works best for you. But there's a really nice meditation that you can do of imagining a guru or a monk or a wizard or a godly being, whatever you want to talk about, imagining that you're approaching him in a beautiful field or a cave. You can make this meditation wherever you want and have a conversation with him and go ask him the questions and see what comes out. Yeah. It's from your subconscious, right? So those answers are those answers within, but from a different being that you're creating. Yeah. And you'd be surprised, like, whoa, that guru that I invented in my head had some good shit, right? So you can do something like that. Or one that I really like to do, which was the reason I shaved my mustache. If you guys haven't heard that episode, go check it out, was a mirror conversation. And I look at myself really deep in the eyes and I play this role playing of me, Ali, my ego self, my worldly self here in this body, and my higher self, my true self, my God self. And I'll have that conversation and I'll ask questions, and you'd be so surprised. I mean, we were experts at this as children. Bring out that inner child and use your imagination. It can be so powerful when trying to seek answers that already lie within. Yeah, I agree. And I would add, if you do any of these, however you're looking for answers within, one of the biggest things you got to do is have patience. Because the answer may not come the first time or the second time. You have to sit and allow it to naturally occur, and I think that's hard for us in today's world. We want to rush, Google, answer, and a lot of times the problems that life gives us, the highs and the lows that we're navigating, need time. They need your time and your focus to get through. So don't rush it. It's not a flip the switch and it's gone tomorrow. And you guys all know this, right? Most people's problems carry with them for a while. Mm-hmm. But this to me is a way to overcome them. And I can tell you, since I started doing this, and I've not had one more panic attack. And I still have business issues. I still have uncertainty. My kids are still moving out. But I've filtered, and I wish we taught young people that more often, right? I wish we taught, instead of calling the mental health crisis and putting people on prescriptions, and that we actually taught them, like, how do you filter all these thoughts you have? And it won't work for everybody. Like, I'm sure there's some outliers but I think it'll benefit a lot of people if they just took time, or maybe we created time in their day. What if it is a business culture, instead of grind, hustle, sleep when you're dead mentality? We said, no, you know what? You need 40 minutes to just sit with your thoughts. I can't imagine how much more productive we would be, how many more problems we would solve for our businesses and our lives. And then, quite honestly, how much more tolerant of people we would be. Yeah. Because it's that time within you could expose. You could really get clarity on thoughts of why are you doing certain things. And, looking back, that's something I wish I'd have done with my kids, because I had no idea.
You know, you just kind of like we just turned external for, okay, you're feeling kind of sad. Well, let's watch a funny movie, or I'll go buy you your favorite ice cream, or let's go work out. That'll make us feel better because we know it does.
Mm-hmm.
But it's short term. If there was a problem in the workout, we need to solve the problem in the workout, it's still there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Versus really
Getting to the
filtering
root.
things. Yeah, just realizing how many answers we have to our own problems already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our own issues. Like, do we want to do this or not do this? Well, quit asking everybody else's opinions and just sit and think about it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because even parents, right? You're talking about media has bias, and parents have bias, right? As a parent, if you come to me and you're like, "Hey, Dad, I want to pull all my savings, and I'm gonna buy this business because I think it could go well," and I'm like, "Dude, don't do that." That's my bias. Mm-hmm. Well, what's my bias? My bias is from a good place. I want to protect you from losing everything, right? That's what most people would tell you. But it doesn't mean it's right for you. And it doesn't mean I'm wrong for sharing it. Because as a parent, I want to protect my flock. But if you never go do that, how much regret do you carry the rest of your life? And how little do I carry? Because I probably don't even remember that conversation. Because I'd be like, my boy Ali had another crazy idea. But it might have been the absolute right thing for you to do. But you didn't look inward. You've listened all external. And I think there's a good balance of that, right? Listen,
for sure.
You can get input, but then always for me, and it's the thing I've been really stressing to my kids recently, is get whatever information you want and then sit with it and ask, does it feel right to you? Is it right for you? Mm-hmm. And then always ask yourself, okay, why do they want me to believe this? Why does this person say that? There's agendas there.
Right. And we have a whole episode about that of monitoring where you get your information and your sources.
Gosh. Yeah, for sure.
Which is great, right? You don't someone who's been in the arena, right? Someone who's had the experiences, right? Someone who's been there, who's been there, and even if you don't have the best relationship, something to keep in mind is that most people inherently want to share, want to give value. When you come humbly to somebody, say, hey, I need some help. I would love your advice. I have a couple questions. I know I feel like I'd love to help. I'd love to share.
Absolutely.
So it's about being humble, like you said, admitting you need some help.
Yeah.
You want some help, and taking that information and going back within. You're the only one who knows you. You're the only one who knows how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think that's important.
Big time.
Well, even my example, if my daughter would have gave me that book and I'd have read it to get through it without any application of how it applies to me, I could still be having panic attacks. Mm-hmm. Because all the stimulus that was causing it is still there, if not more. So that's my whole point here is get the information, but then apply it to you and use it to slow your life down, to slow what's coming through your filter, kind of put a little cap on that.
Mm-hmm. So, Jared, what answers have you found within you that are helping through this crazy time that maybe some of our listeners can also apply?
It's funny, man. I've my wife thinks it's funny because she thinks I'm turning into a hippie now.
Yeah.
Because I was always a city kid, right? And I grew up right outside of Washington, D.C., very urban. I remember we took field trips to go see a farm because there were no farms near us because it was all city. So most of my adult life, I didn't want to go camping. I thought it was dumb, right? Why would I have this nice house and all this comfort to drive out and pretend I don't have it? I didn't mind hiking, but it wasn't my favorite thing. It's like a long walk. There's other stuff I'd rather do. So, long story. And then now I'm like, okay, with all this information, where's the quietest place I can go? It's on my hikes. It's up to property, where you can just sit and there's no cell phones, there's no internet there. It's just nature. So I found for me that really that place and time for now, I find a lot of answers. when I just go sit and be in nature. And whether it's hiking and listening to the birds and looking at things, or watching the trees, admiring the stars, like we had the comet a couple weeks ago. Just taking a moment to really realize, like, Earth has been here a lot longer than us, and it's seen a lot of problems worse than what we see, and it's still here, right? It continues to evolve, and just realize there's probably answers in nature.
For sure.
And answers in the quietness that nature provides. And so that's been huge for me, man. It's just realizing that one, I can create stillness for myself, because I've always been you remember at the beginning of this year, one of the goals for myself was not to go back to back to back on appointments, but to enjoy, slow down, enjoy. And then I think, like in March, maybe before all this happened, you asked me about it. I was like, no, dude, it's still the same. I can't, right now I was like, I'm running. Well, maybe that's the whole purpose of this in my life, is to force me to do the things I wasn't able to do before, which is slow down and enjoy my moments, and then stop and just look and appreciate all the stuff around me, to fight that desire to always have to have more. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. Is one, I'm appreciating nature more. I understand that when I go there, I feel good, which I think is probably true for most human beings, because we are of nature, right? Like, we're all the same. And then two, for me, I think looking within, I realized that, like, maybe all this external stuff is helping me do the things I was trying to do to begin with, which was slow down and just appreciate the people in my life.
Yeah.
There has to be something good out of it.
For sure.
What do you think?
I'm with you that one thing I've realized through this time is that no matter what the circumstances are, things are out of my control, external things, that I'm always going to be my best in any circumstance, and there will be times where I'm going to be unsure. There's going to be uncertainty. I mean, last week I was telling you, like, I don't know. I'm trying to do this RV trip here by the end of the year. Then part of me is like, is that really what I want to do? And it's my business. After my MMA fight, I was like, oh man, I'm 29. What if I could put a lot more time into this and become a professional and, go the career path here, and so many things. But I think one thing I continue to realize is that whatever I'm doing, I can enjoy it. I'm going to be happy, and I'm going to be giving it my best, whatever path I choose, that there's no wrong path. Yeah. And that the answers are within, to continue to practice stillness, to continue to cultivate relationships, and ask for advice, ask about other people's experiences, try different things, have new experiences, continue to grow, continue to learn. And in any experience, I'm going to be my best. And while I'm doing that, uplift others along the way. Yeah. Continue to spread that continue to spread positivity, continue to spread on purpose, and try to be of service and be of value, right? And there's going to be, there will be times where I may stumble and may feel lost, but that, like you said, it's seasonal. There's balance. I think kind of the biggest answer is, like, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And one thing, kind of a little side note, this new way to look at Mother Nature in the world that I came across is, and you just said it, is Mother Nature, the earth has been through everything. Yeah. Comets, dinosaurs, ice ages, everything. Viruses, everything. So it's funny how we have all these campaigns like recycle, save the planet, right? Save Mother Earth. We're going to destroy the planet. No, we're not. Mother Earth is going to out-survive humans, no doubt, right? We're destroying ourselves. We're destroying ourselves by polluting. We're destroying our future generations and children by being by being wasteful and all these things. Mother Earth will always be around. And I think that because she has always been around, that there's so much answers in nature that's not obvious. It's not a meme, right? It's not an image. Yeah. It's not a quote. But there's so much that we can learn in the stillness because Mother Earth has been around since the beginning of time. Yeah.
And you need to experience it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I can tell you what I experienced, but that's not your experience.
Right.
And yeah, I agree. It's and maybe that's the whole point of this whole process, is to put us back in touch with what's really important. Slow down, filter, and enjoy what's around you instead of always looking for what you need next. Because our time's short. If you look at the lifetime of Earth compared to your amount of time here, you're not that important.
No.
You're not here very long. So what you do in that time, you better create some value.
Yeah.
So look in. Don't get caught up in thinking everybody else has the right answer for you. You have the right answer for you. And only you know what you're capable of. And let's be honest, if you're truly living up to that, or if you're kind of dismissing that responsibility to everybody else in the world to put you there.
Man in the glass will always know. Can't lie to him.
No. Well, you can.
You can, but he'll
He
know
knows.
you're lying.
He knows you're lying. Yeah. What practice do we have for him, Mr. Ali?
All right. First part of purposeful practice, guys, is to reflect on if you've ever had success looking inward for the answers you seek. That can be really powerful, realizing that you've had the success there to continue that practice. Part 2, what was the most impactful moment you have had realizing your own power? Part 3, are you utilizing your power to lead you through this current crisis, and how? And most importantly, email your practice to us at onpurpose.official@gmail.com. We really enjoy reading those, interacting with our community, and every now and then we will reward some of those people who are on this journey with us and sharing their purposeful practice.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys being here. Remember to go over to Patreon if you want to join the community and go a little deeper with things. We have membership options from $2 to $50 monthly, depending on where you want to fit in. And we love to support there. There's some extras that Patreon gets that not all podcast members get on the commercial end. And we thank you for allowing us allowing us this space in your all's lives.
Yes. Awesome episode. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you. All right, team, as we wrap up another episode of the On Purpose podcast, we are thankful for having you all on our journey. We want to announce new ways to include you and let you go deeper into our community. First off, we got the onpurposepodcast.com website where you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter, get inside tips, and see what's coming up in the upcoming months. As well as our new launch is our Patreon account. We have 5 tiers where you can decide at what level you want to contribute to the podcast and the community, help support us, continue to push us forward and grow. And it's as little as 50 cents an episode, or $2 a month, all the way up to $50 a month, depending on where you want to be. Perks of this are sneak peek episodes. You get the episodes quicker. You get to contribute on episodes. You get monthly Q&As with Ali and I and special guests. And you get to be a building block for our community as we continue to grow worldwide. With the release of Shelly Davies' episode, we are now international. And we're excited for the future leads us. So please fit in with us wherever you are comfortable. And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We'll see you next week.